Our next generation portable is officially named PlayStation Vita.
Vita does indeed mean life. Both the world and the Vita ecosystem are going through a bit of a depressive state at the moment, but I'm happy to say there's at least a little light at the end of that tunnel, well, for the Vita anyway. So to get into it, let's get to the news. So as is custom, let's first get into the bad news, which should not come as a shock, with Sony gleefully advertising Ellie assassinating the last Vita owner in the future. So, Sony have stealthily shut down all the Killzone Mercenary servers, which comes as a bit of a blow to me as I was holding off on playing this game. With the game having online trophies as well, it means the Platinum trophy is no longer attainable. Sony is still yet to give a response, but with the quiet nature they did it, I doubt that'll happen. Now on to the next piece of news. You've probably heard about PEGI, the European Video Game Guidance System, which gives ratings for all games in Europe. Their usual price for rating a digital game on the Vita was €260, but from August they've declared that they're getting rid of that category of game type, which was the casual game, and the only option left for developers and publishers was a large increase of €1,450 to rate the game. Sony and other platforms like Microsoft and Nintendo implementing a free option. It's called IARC, and that's taking over the rest of the PlayStation Store, but unfortunately for some reason it's not on the Vita, so it's just PS4 and eventual PS5 games. The benefit obviously for developers is that IARC is free and it's a more simplified version of PEGI, because normally PEGI requires you to send them both the ROM of the game along with video footage, and you have to fill out a questionnaire because a lot of these rating systems rely on a trust system where they expect you to be truthful, and if you're not then there's consequences for that. So IARC is a more simplified questionnaire only, and they usually do random spot checks on certain titles after that just to make sure that everyone's being truthful. Now the cut-off date for PEGI dropping the casual game title would have been August, and it would mean the end of Vita games due to it no longer being viable for most developers and publishers to release games anymore, because they couldn't afford obviously a PEGI license, and it would have been very profitable just to release them in one region. But one thing you can do, if any publishers or developers are listening, is you can pay in advance. So if you do have a game or games coming out, so you could pay the current fee and book them in advance, so they'd have to fulfill that. Now as you can guess, the Vita community didn't take it very well, and riots ensued.
They marched down Macquarie Street from Hyde Park. They're currently crossing roads. Police are trying to stop traffic at the moment. You can see behind me here we've got buses lined up.
Karen, what are you doing? Why stealing those lamps? That's not going to help the PEGI situation. Karen! Well, it turns out Karen did solve the issue, with PEGI offering to drop €1,000 from the fee, so a rating for a Vita game in future now stands at €450, which is obviously it's still slightly more than it used to be, with a €190 increase. But I can confirm that a few developers that I talked to are going to continue releasing Vita games under this new system, so that's good news for Vita fans, and it's a reminder that at least some Karens are useful. Now I wonder if she can help with the Killzone situation. She might need to steal some pillows for that one. You go, Karen. Oh, just a second, I'm getting some breaking news that's happening right now. That's right, Vita fans can rejoice, as Sony QA is back up and running. Developers have reached out to me to say their titles are being scheduled for QA this month, so due to that they may miss the window for releasing this month, but you can be certain in July, Vita games will once again hit the PlayStation Store. Now Vita fans can finally breathe a sigh of relief, put down the bats and go home. So with news out the way, let's get into what I played this month on the PlayStation Vita. Now first up is a sequel to a game that I played a few months back, and that's Reed 2. So if you played Reed Remastered, well this is just more of it. It doesn't feel like a sequel, it's just an extension of the original game with more levels, or 49 levels to be exact. And just like the first one, you need to make sure to turn off screen shake in the options because this game will make you sick otherwise. and whilst it's perfectly serviceable, I do feel that they missed a trick in not doing more with the game, as it's simply more levels. There's no new mechanics or anything improved or even a change in art style. It's exactly the same game but just different levels, and that's it. So in regards to which one to play, Read Remastered or the sequel, I'd go whichever was cheapest because they're pretty much the same game. Now on to a strange title, and that's Battle Rockets. This is a Vita exclusive, so I was hoping it was going to be good. Unfortunately, it feels like they spent more time creating this fancy user interface that is practically unusable. Trying to select a level in this game was so hard that I gave up multiple times out of pure frustration and closed it. I had to keep going back because I needed to at least play some of the game. The single player portion is slim pickings, as this is predominantly a versus title, and seeing as we're in lockdown and it requires a person to use each side of the Vita while there's no one to play with. The game is simple enough. It's basically a shmup with health, so you just spam bullets at one another. There's really nothing to it. The single player portion just tries to add more to that by giving you a different mission type, whereas maybe you don't want to shoot, maybe you just want to survive for as long as possible or try and get the enemy down to a certain amount of health, that type of thing. But it's very simple and they've really overthought the user interface design. I don't know why. Just keep things simple. This is a lesson for any developers out there. Just keep things simple. You don't need to over design your game. Next game is one that does actually keep things simple, and that's Mechabolt. I found this to be a very pleasant game all around, not overly difficult, and some of the puzzles are very creative. It's basically a puzzle game and it keeps throwing different mechanics at you. You can complete this within an hour and there's a solid escalation in the difficulty, but what I did like is the slow introduction of new mechanics and really fleshing them out. It just felt like solid design work, and the graphics also are easy on the eyes. But one thing I do think it needed was some boss battles. It felt like you were just going from one thematic level to another. It felt like something was missing in between those. So from one smartly designed game to one that's extremely repetitive, and that's Super Willow D-Make. So this is basically a platformer, but it gets extremely repetitive. In fact, I had to quit halfway through. I just couldn't take it anymore. The boss fights feel like they were made within 5 minutes because it's very rough around the edges. The actual platformer levels feel like the meat of the game, or where they actually spent time to create something. But the issue is it's very unengaging. I doubt that you'll see it to the end of completion. I was honestly just begging for it to be over. And the next game is Full Blast. Now this impressed me as well. This is a shmup. It doesn't really get into bullet hell except for the bosses, so if you're not very good at shmups you should have no issue with this really. It's 14 levels over 3 different themes of fighting alien invaders, and it has a very arcadey feel to it, with the levels blended into one another. The graphics of the ship and the enemies is fine, but what will impress you is the backgrounds. They're all like animated 3D cityscapes and woodland and eventually the ocean. I did notice that the English translation is off. I'm not sure who they got to translate it, but the grammar's a little off. It plays very well, it's quite fun. It's exactly what you'd expect of a shmup. I do feel that it controls a little bit too fast, because a lot of times with a shmup you want to be able to navigate around enemy bullets, and this one, a little touch of the stick would move the ship quite far, so obviously it's not great for slight maneuvers. I also feel they should have given you more variety in the power-ups, made it more of a dynamic system, as you level up your weapon to its highest level within 2 levels, and so it keeps pointlessly giving you more power-ups for your gun even though you've got it to full. So they should have a system where it automatically changes to a thing you haven't got, such as more bombs or combo multipliers. As this is a solid little shmup, I definitely recommend it. And the final game that I played this month, and it's one I highly recommend, and that's Thy Sword. The gameplay of this reminded me a lot of Tiny Barbarian DX, even thematically. Thy Sword is more combat based, and the overall level structure is the same, so you'll always have the same amount of stages and the same themed levels, but the arrangements in those levels are randomly generated. When you first start it, it doesn't explain a whole lot. I was stuck in a room wondering what exactly I meant to do. I just killed all the enemies in there and nothing was happening. It wasn't until later that I realised realised, oh, that's the tournament versus room where you're meant to fight against another player. So I was just in there on my own. And again, this is local co-op. I don't believe it has online play, so you'd have to get another Vita owner, which is obviously currently a bit difficult if you want to do ad hoc. But this game is all about timing in a way, as you have a normal attack and you can just use that to slash. You'll just be blocking a lot and then waiting for the openings to slash again. But to get a lot of money, because in order to upgrade you have to collect money throughout the levels, and then you can spend these when you complete a level. You'll have a little shop, you'll have the chance to buy upgrades, whether it's a better weapon, a crossbow, or increase your health, that type of thing. The power-ups are quite expensive. You might need a few trips in levels to be able to afford anything, but you'll collect more money by doing the execution kill, as this decapitates the enemy in one hit. The issue is that it needs to be lined up correctly, so how I was normally doing this a lot was hitting an enemy that's on a platform above so it dropped down to your level, and then timing it as it was in the air dropping down. It's got a few different difficulty modes, and if you want to get into the hard mode, it's very hard, and I'm yet to actually complete on a hard mode, so if you have, well done to you. One thing that I wish was in the game is whenever you unlock other heroes as you go through the game, whether you're through money or you just meet them randomly, I wish they'd stay unlocked, as whenever you start a new game they all disappear because you can only have one save game, and I wish that they were unlocked to add a greater variety, because each hero has a different weapon set to start off with. For example, the Barbarian starts off with a sword, or the Valkyrie has the bow, so you can kill enemies from a distance. And obviously the other heroes have different weapons, but I never really got to use them very much because I was more concentrating on my own character, and when I actually wanted to use them they disappeared because I started a new game. But this game's a lot of fun. It's also got some great boss battles which take a bit of time to master to get to grips with all their attacks and their timings, but it's well worth it, and I highly recommend this game on the Vita. And so that's all I've played this month, so let's get into what's coming out next month on the PlayStation Vita, and it's not a lot. June only sees a single release this month, and only in the United States. I do believe this will come out in Europe at some point. So on June 9th we've got Demon's Tier Plus. Demon's Tier Plus is a dungeon RPG roguelike with arcade and adventure elements. Enter the dungeons of King Fosgar and destroy his demonic minions. Combining the best elements from Xenon Valkyrie Plus and Riddle Corpse's EX, this is the latest game in the Diabolical Mind trilogy. Fosgar, a hated king attracted by demonic rituals, turned into a dark and diabolical being, destroying all of humanity and flooding the world with monsters. This story became a legend and peace returned to the land. 1,000 years later, a mysterious pit appears in a village after a huge earthquake, where an evil aura emanates from. Will you be the hero to save this world? But if you are in Europe or elsewhere in the world that doesn't get the game, the PlayAsia version is also shipping that month if you've ordered that. And that's it for this month. So it shouldn't be too long now until Sony start getting back in the swing of things and we'll see some more games released on the Vita. Don't forget, I've still got the giveaway going on, so if you want to grab yourself a free Vita game, head on over to the Crash Landed forum. I'll leave a link in the description, and share your Vita digital or physical collection. And so I hope you're all well, maybe got through some of your backlog, and as always, don't forget, Vita means life.